Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Skeindeer. And there's also the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, where you can find out everything about current knit-alongs, giveaways and general chatter. So do come and join that group if you haven't already. And I have to say, like, I'm not the best at keeping track of membership numbers and whatnot, but it's definitely skyrocketed lately, so thank you so much for joining the group. It's been super active lately, and a lot of that is due to the knit-alongs that are going on and will be going on soon. So I'm just going to run through those quickly before we get into the main course of the podcast episode. So one knit-along that's going on is the flea cardigan knit-along, or for Navia Duo, if you will. That is being co-hosted by me and Kristen of the Yarn podcast. We still don't have an ending date for that, so there is still time to join. I am joining in myself, although obviously not eligible for prizes. But I have not been working on the cardigan this week. I have yet to bind off the body. I have done the sleeves. I literally, beyond binding off, need to make the button bands and the reason I haven't worked on that this week is because I've been away. I've been to Oxford for the weekend, and obviously the week is for work, so I've just not had time to sit down and record that, because I've had some requests that you would like to see it on camera. Now, I am not planning on making a tutorial of any kind. There are better people suited for that, but I can make a video just to have that. Tutorials are hard to make, you guys, but I'm gonna film it and you can make of it what you like. So that's one knit along, and the other one, which it's not wrapped up yet. We will be wrapping it up on September 1st, or I guess August 31st. That is the last date of the knit along, which is the Colour Your World socks knit along, which is basically knitting a pair of socks of my Colour Your World socks design. It's a colour work sock pattern, and there has actually been a prize draw for it already, but the still big prize draw is for finished objects that are finished after the KAL is over. And the other really exciting thing that is making the group just bubbling with activity is the Marius knit along that will be starting on September 1st, as well as the Tallulah Mittens knit along and club that will be starting on the same date. So two knit along starting. It has technically started already, the Tallulah Mittens knit along, because there's already one pattern out. It's been out since January, so if you knit that in August or later, it will be eligible. So there's that. But like I said last episode, I really want to thank you for your support for the Tallulah Mittens Club. I've had so much support from all you knitters out there, other podcasters, everybody buying it at the club and talking about it in such a generous way. People, you know, who worked on the Tallulah Mittens pattern that this entire club is based on, really have, you know, said I'm good at writing up patterns, and that's a huge compliment. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I am very excited to publish the mysterious patterns. I have put up the pattern page on Ravelry for the first pattern that'll be coming up on the 1st of September. There's some information there, a bit about yarn and meter edge, that kind of thing. So you might be interested to have a look there, but generally it's just up there for you to queue your mittens or add it to your projects if you want to do that already. Yeah, it's just a nice placeholder. So yes, the pattern will not be downloadable from that page as of yet. You will have to wait for September 1st before you can download the pattern. So even if you bought the club, pattern's not available there. And while I'm talking about the Mitten Club, I think we need to have a little bit of a serious talk, because I hope I have covered my thankfulness enough in this episode and the last episode, and I can't say that enough, so I don't want to sound ungrateful. But I think we need to set some ground rules, because I am getting a lot of messages about this, and that's totally the point. I have put myself out there available for support, pattern support. That makes total sense. But pattern support is on Ravelry. It is not on social media in general. It is not on YouTube. It is not on Instagram. I keep getting a lot of messages about various things in relation to this club, especially about yarn choice. So I'm going to talk a bit about yarn choice here to help you guys out, but I also want to say Ravelry is where pattern support happens. So that is where you contact me about those kinds of things. You know, it's not really appropriate to go and find me on other social media platforms because that makes things very overwhelming sometimes. But anyway, so what I also want to say, try to avoid private messaging about these things if you can. Not because I hate private messages, that's fine. I'm equally likely to read and reply to private messages as I am on forum posts. So it's not like you have a better chance of getting me to get back to you going there. I am just keeping my eye on the group as much as I am on my inbox, so don't worry about that. The reason I'm asking you is because a lot of people asking me the same questions. So if you ask in the group, other people can see the answer in the group, and then it is a bit less replying the same stuff to everybody for me, and that will be awesome, and I'll be very grateful for that. So I hope that's okay with you guys as well. I am loving the light here today. It's a nice cloudy day, perfect podcasting light, and my neighbor is being quiet for once. That's good. I'm happy about that. So yeah, I hope that was clear. So any conversation, talking, questions, pattern support for well, anything that I have designed, but particularly this club, I'd prefer if we did that on Ravelry. I'd prefer if it happened in the group, and there is a thread for it already. So yeah, but about yarn choice, that is the most common kind of question that I'm getting, and the most common phrasing is, I have this yarn, can I use it? I don't know. I mean, I can give you general guidelines that if it fits that, it should work, but I can't give you a 100% guarantee answer unless I have tried the yarn, and in most of the cases I obviously wouldn't have. But I can sort of say it should work. So I want to say what I base those answers on, because I can literally tell you the recipe of that right now, and there is some of that already in the kind of begin info pamphlet that you already got when you bought the club, PDF basically of general information. So you want a non-superwash, preferably woolen spun yarn. So what does that mean? Well, superwash you probably already know. It's a chemical treatment of the yarn that makes it smoother, and we don't want smooth yarn for color work. That's the short story. And that's the same story with woolen spun versus worsted spun. So if you have worsted spun yarn, it means that the fiber before spinning has been combed into being parallel, so all the fibers are pointing in the right direction. It makes the actual yarn less spiky, less likely to prickle and edge, but not so good for color work. You can do it, you choose the yarn that you want, but it's a bit of a, you know, you get a better result with woolen spun. And woolen spun means that the fiber is pointing in all sorts of directions. It's literally just like, it's not being combed parallel, essentially. I'm horrible at explaining this. I don't spin, so this is just something you know theoretically, but I know also that woolen spun yarn are perfect for color work. That's pretty much why they exist. And obviously yarns are not usually labeled as woolen spun or worsted spun, usually. You kind of have to recognize it by looking at it. You can contact the people making the yarn. You'd probably have a better chance of contacting the actual spinners and yarn producers than me, checking if it's woolen spun or worsted spun, because I can't look at yarn from online and tell. But generally it's quite easy to just have a little feel. See if I can just find some yarn that I think is. So I just want to show you an example of woolen spun. And they're very recognizable because they're quite lofty. You can literally see the two plies here, and there's so much air, and you can see the little fibers spiking everywhere. It gives it a bit of bite, but that's exactly what you want to make the yarn just kind of do its thing, help you with the color work, make it look nice. Now I don't have any great examples of worsted spun yarn here, but generally your usual superwash yarn, you know, probably the yarn that your fairy hand dyer uses is probably worsted spun. You can see it's very smooth yarn, very, you know, very much a parallel fiber. So yeah, that's probably the best thing to go by. And this distinction obviously isn't going to make or break your mittens. I just recommend woolen spun. So woolen spun, non-superwash. And then we need to talk about breeds fiber and weight, and this is something I also get asked quite a bit. It's like people having asked me, you know, can I use this Superwash fingering weight merino? You need to, please, before asking me, just read through the general information I gave you, because it says DK weight, okay, far cry from fingering weight. So DK weight yarn, non-superwash. I'd also say preferably not merino. Now there are different kinds of merino, and there are some fairly rustic merinos out there, but generally not merino. Merino is just not, doesn't quite have that bite to it. But it can work, you know, I'm never gonna say never. Also Blueface Leicester, that's a funny one, because usually I will say avoid long staple fibers, you know, don't use alpaca, stay away from Wensleydale and other long wools. For some odd reason, Blueface Leicesters tend to work. I wonder if there are, despite being quite a long fiber, maybe woolen spun and that's why they work. I don't know, but Blueface Leicester somehow works. So there are always exceptions to the rule. It's weird, but yeah. Try to avoid the smoother yarns like merino, the softer ones, the ones that don't have enough bite, but also try to avoid the really long staples like Wensleydales and alpaca, because they will drape. You don't get that sort of Velcro effect that you want from your yarn. Sorry, I keep shaking the whole stand here. So I think I covered the main thing now. Okay, non-superwash, woolen spun, avoid long staples and really soft yarns, although Blueface Leicester is the funny exception to this thing. It tends to work. It's not the optimal yarn either, but if you're like super sensitive, it's the thing to go by. But I would actually look into lamb's wool if you're very sensitive. Lamb's wool is usually fine for most people. I very rarely come across people who think that's itchy. Most people, when they hold lamb's wool yarn, they're like, ah. So that should fit the bill. And of course, DK weight. I'm not sure if I want to say DK weight bordering worsted or bordering sport. I think I have said bordering worsted. I mean, we're talking a gauge of 22 to 24 stitches, so it can go quite thick there. But yeah, DK weight usually should be fine. I have given a list of yarns that I know work and also a list of yarns that I know should work. So go by that. And obviously, again, going back to the kind of questions that I'm getting, will this yarn work? And again, can't promise anything, because if I haven't tried it, I wouldn't know. So try to use the guidelines that I have given you, and we'll see if that works, because that's usually what I go by if I am answering those kinds of questions. And obviously, if you are about to order yarn and you're still asking about will this yarn work, maybe you should just order one of the yarns that I recommended. If you're actually going to make a purchase and add to your stash, that will make your life easier than trying to order something that's completely off what I have recommended. So that's all I wanted to say about the whole yarn question answer thing. I hope that helped you, and I'm sorry for starting the whole episode with stuff that may or may not be relevant to you. Yeah, I have another thing that may or may not be relevant to you. Some of you might remember I did some mitten kits in January. The noise has come back again. Oh joy. Anyway, so I have been getting a lot of questions that are, you know, will I be doing more mitten kits? Will I be selling more yarn from Norway? And I have said that probably not. I have, you know, limited suitcase space when I travel back and forth to Norway. I do that 2 to 3 times a year. But I managed to buy some fairly difficult to find yarn in Norway that I bought for the intents and purposes of selling kits. So I will be selling 20 kits. So, and what I want to make very clear here is that these kits are, whilst they will contain the salve mitten pattern that is part of the club, it is completely independent of the club. So if you already bought the club, you can still get this kit. If you haven't bought this club, you can still get this kit. If you want to use the yarn in the kit for actually some different patterns than the pattern included in the kit, you can do that. That is fine. But I thought I'd put the kit back up. So this kit existed back in January, way before we had this mitten club. So it just so happens that it kind of overlaps in relevance in the pattern that is for. Because this is just the only time I could do it. You know, I've been to Norway, I picked up the yarn, I'd already planned for the club to start in the autumn, and it's just kind of overlapping by coincidence. So don't feel like you need to have bought the club for getting this kit. And certainly if you actually felt that the club is a bit too much of an undertaking for you, so you didn't actually get it, although there's still a chance for that, of course, you could still get it. But if you decided against it because you feel like you're not quite there yet, getting this kit is probably better for you, because you only commit to one pattern. There's just enough yarn to make one pair of mittens, and you get the yarn. You don't have to make that, you know, yarn decision that I just talked about. You get the woolen spun, you get Norwegian yarn, it's DK weight, it should be perfect. So each kit will have one white skein and one black skein, and the yarn, I should actually get this off my shelf, hang on. I am very prepared for this episode, as you can see, but I found some skeins. So these are the skeins that the kit will include, and this yarn you can pretty much, I think, only get in Husfriden in Serbu. So that is the local craft shop in the village of Serbu itself, and this is kind of their label. So I bought 20 of each color, so that's why there will be 20 kits, because that's all I could fit in my suitcase. So you need to just jump on Etsy right now, there's a link below. So this is the yarn that will be included. There will be a pattern for the already published Tallulah Mitten pattern. That is really the only one I can include, because the other ones aren't published yet. Also, do you like my new Moomin thing in the background? I've had a bit of a rearrangement of the posters, and I found some lovely Moomin prints in Oxford, and I love the Moomins. I even have my little Moomin tin. This is where I have my kind of on the desk notions that I don't need to bring in my notions pouch. It's just in here. And I got Moomin mugs, I got Moomin calendar, just Moomins everywhere. I got Moomin tights even. Everything's Moomin. We even have a Moomin sitting in the staircase up to my room. It's my flatmate's Moomin, but just need Moomins. So now we have covered all the administrative stuff, the mitten kit, the mitten club, all the other knit alongs, and yeah, shall we talk about the stuff that I have knitted this week? Because I have, can I have a drum roll please? Everybody just tap their knees. I have 4 finished objects. 4. That's the problem, or the problem, this is the plus side of being a non-monogamous knitter, is that sometimes you just finish all the things, and this is one of those weeks where I've just been like, I finished 3 things in one day. And that was yesterday. I was very active yesterday, knitting wise, maybe not so much work wise. But yeah, I finished something shortly after recording last week's episode actually, so I thought I'd start with that. I finished a hat. So I just started this hat last episode because I had some resistance from this other project of mine that didn't quite work out. I made 2 right-hand mittens, so I needed something simple, fast, and just like something that would work with me, not against me. So I made a chunky weight hat with cables, some very fat cables here. This is the Kaspara hat, which is a hat from a book called Strikkesidas Favoritter. I personally don't have that book, but they have added the pattern online for free in Norwegian, so it's only so available really. I mean, you have to know Norwegian, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I was recommended this hat pattern by one of you guys actually, because I had this skein of Norwegian pelsull, which I loosely translate in my mind to either fur wool or pelt wool. It is a amazing breed of sheep that I think is awesome, and they make just an amazing crunchy yarn. And this is one of those yarns that it's kind of a long staple, but still I should think would work for color work. There's always exceptions to the rule, you guys. So it is a blend, not a blend, it's literally a mixed breed of the Swedish Gotland sheep and the old Norwegian Sparso. And it's just really salted in this amazing fiber that I made a hat of. So I think that's enough rambling about that. Fiber wise, I mean, the yarn is by Hillesvåg, of course. I got this yarn when I was in Norway this summer, and Hillesvåg is one of my favorite yarn producers. And yeah, I forgot what it's called. I think the yarn is called Blåne. That's their chunky weight palsu. And this little Pom Pom here, this is one of those keychains, or bag keychains that they sell at H&M. So you're literally supposed to hook it to your bag and just have a little fluff ball hanging. But I bought this knowing I'd put it as on a hat. So you can actually see in the middle here, there's like a bit of a ring here from the Pom Pom. As you do. So let's ruin my hair for today by trying on the hat. It makes my head look kind of long, but you know what? This is exactly the kind of hat I wanted, so I'm very happy about that. Hat hair, you guys. Woo. So yeah, I think this will be my go-to hat this winter. Yeah. It is very dark though, so I don't know how much you've been able to see. Really? Oh, that's better. So it's got moss stitch, it's got rib, and some really nice fat cables. I wasn't that impressed by the crown decrease because it's just stockinette, and I feel like you could integrate the stitch pattern better with that, but that wasn't in the instructions and that wasn't in my mind because I just wanted something simple, so I just did it according to the pattern. And I knitted up exactly one skein, which was awesome. Another finished object that I finished just before going to bed last night is the Tallulah Mittens. This is a pattern designed by Jorid Linvik, and she has made these amazing colorwork mittens, and I used Nordlys, aka Northern Lights by Viking yarn, Viking of Norway if you will. So I've said before, it's not the most appropriate mitten yarn, but it's a yarn that my mum wanted in a pair of mittens, so who am I to complain? I had the yarn already and I had the pattern already, so if this is going to be her Christmas gift, well, I'm already one Christmas gift into this year's Christmas knitting. Yay! So I mean, the mittens are not blocked, so they feel and look a bit bulkier and rougher. The mittens themselves feel very good after blocking, I have to say, and they fit my hands really well, so I can only hope they will fit my mum's as well. There's that. I know. So it's going to be on the island as well, so I hope that means my mum will actually wear these, because she's often a bit worried that she shouldn't be like holding the leads of the dogs with fine mittens. They are a bit short here though. I hope she won't mind. That's a bit of a downside to these. I might be maybe casting on stitches and doing a rib down here, because I got a lot of yarn left still. We'll see. I'm just thinking out loud here. They're finished is what I'm trying to say. I talked about this pattern a bit last week. There was some problem in the printing of the pattern, so you can't actually see where the decreases are supposed to go. So I kind of had to do a bit of guesswork there, but it does seem that it worked out just fine. So I think we're good with these mittens. And I think I may have soothed my mitten kick for a while now. Produced a couple of mittens in very short space of time. So maybe I will get onto socks. I feel like this autumn might be my sock autumn. I feel like it should be, and I feel like it's going to be, and it certainly doesn't hurt that there is a sock knitting club via Moods of Colours yarns, which has basically 3 of my favorite designers in it, so that's good. I'll be talking more about that in a bit. And I also bought a sock pattern book, which I talked about last episode, and I bought a lot of sock yarn. So I'm predicting a lot of sock knitting in the future, in the near future. Another project that I have finished very recently, I have never showed you. I started this project in April, and I tried to have it published in a couple of knitting publications. I even tried to have it published to this autumn's Pom Pom. I didn't make it, but because I know the person who's this issue's guest editor, she actually told me that I had made it to the last rounds. It just didn't fit with the patterns that they had selected, which obviously I can't really help. So that was super encouraging to know that I kind of made it that far for Pom Pom. Like, wow. But yeah, I also tried to submit it to another publication, but that didn't work out. And to be fair, like, I had made this design for a pattern submission call for Pom Pom, not the other magazine, so that is fair, really. So I decided I am better off just publishing this on Ravelry instead, and they do look a bit involuntarily festive. I didn't think of these to be a Christmas knit, but they kind of have that color scheme. So I want to show you these mitts that I designed. Yeah, just mitts, and this is what they look on the other side. So I have made these based on how you knit traditional Norwegian mittens. They have that gusset, they have, you know, the usual kind of rib, and then you do the hand and then gusset, but instead of being mittens, they just mitts. So hopefully that is something people will be interested in. I will now start a call for test knitters, and test knitter calls I usually do on Instagram, so don't come here about that. The Instagram's the place for that. I know it's confusing. I have very arbitrary rules about these things. That's why I'm saying them here. I don't actually expect you guys to know these things, but that's usually how I do things, apparently. So yeah, like that. Actually, by the time this episode goes up, I'll probably already have asked for test knitters on Instagram. And if I haven't, I will. You're just gonna have to keep your eyes out. Yeah. So I am very happy with them. They fit me like a glove. And yeah, so I call these my Yggdrasil mittens. So you know Yggdrasil, it's the Norse mythology tree of light. Tree of light, tree of life. Oh my god, I don't know my own. It's a tree of life in Norse mythology. And there's a tree here, so I thought I'm gonna name it that, because that just was the first thing that popped into my mind. It's not because I have to be so goddamn Norwegian. It just seemed to fit. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I knit these in Spindrift by Jameson's, apart from the white. The white is Vinyl Garn by Doma. So you can use either yarn. You can combine it as you wish. Generally, a 2-ply woolen spun yarn should do. Like they're pretty much the same across the board. If you're going to kind of light fingering territory, I might want to swatch a bit first, but generally this should work out just fine. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this really. I just kind of want to hold them up because you've never seen them before, and obviously they're a finished object. Don't know when we're going to see them again, probably when the pattern is published. Yeah, pair of mittens finished. I've been really productive this week. It feels good to have cleared the needles a little bit, and I'm trying to resist the urge to cast things on. But I will confess there is a new cast on this week. But we're not going to get to that yet. No, we're going to get into another finished object before we get into whips. So the last finished object is my Grød shawl. Now I mistakenly translated the name of this shawl, Grød, to be glow. Grød translates to ember. It's just probably a wonky thing with my dialect, I'm sure. So yeah, this is what it looks like. It is kind of like an elongated half pie. I guess it's like a 3/4 half pie. I'm gonna try to show you this a bit better. Okay, so I'm trying to show you from the distance now. Just like, it's so big, that's kind of the issue here. So you can see just how enormous that is. Yay, yay, yay. It is done, and it took a lot longer than I thought. Like, it's the thing with these shawls, they grow and they grow so fast. Like, I'd gone from here to here in just an evening. And then you go up to here and it takes forever. And then you start doing this little border here and it's like, it never ends. And then bind off was actually quite quick. I thought I had to do an I-cord along here because the pattern had said something about an I-cord. Turns out the I-cord is along the top. Oh, that took all of last evening, which meant I had to sit up past my bedtime to do the thumbs of the Tallulah Mittens. So yeah, it's done. You can see the I-cord here. Nice fat little double yarn I-cord going on. I listened to, I think maybe 2/3 of the audiobook for Court of Thorns and Roses, which has been talked about a lot on the podcastosphere lately. It's been on my to-read list for ages. So that is how long it took me. Granted, I listened to the book on double speed, so yeah. Shall we talk a bit more about the yarn that I used? Maybe we want to look at how it wears. So it's difficult to wear because when I wear it like this, it bends, it rolls up this way. So I have to kind of force it to lay it the other way. And that is something I was a bit worried about when I was knitting it, and turns out that's the case. And maybe I would have benefited from doing this bit on a needle size larger. Pattern didn't say that though. It said to knit them a bit looser, which it did, but I think it just should have told me to go up a needle size or so. Then maybe this could have been avoided, because right now it's hard to put on actually. So yeah, yarn. I also used the Norwegian Pelsull for this, but this is their fingering to sport weight, which is called Sølje. So Sølje is a lot thinner than Blåne, but it's also by Hillesvåg. But the gradient stripes is actually by John Arben. It's Danish by Numbers, which is their ridiculously soft merino. It is so soft, like when you cake them up, the cakes nearly fall apart because it's so soft and smooth. Definitely no yarn for color work, just FYI. But So it's a bit of a waste to put them into this shawl because this yarn is kind of prickly. Like, I am fine with it, but it diminishes kind of the softness of the knit by numbers. But I didn't buy it for its softness, I bought it for the gradient because you need a gradient for this shawl. The shawl is designed by, I forgot her real name. She goes by Nina Petrina, both as a dyer and a designer. I think so, at least. She does dye yarn. She did actually have a yarn at the Pom Fest, the kind of anniversary party they had in London that I didn't go to, but I know she was there selling her yarn. I didn't use her yarn, shame on me. But yeah, so it's a bit of an issue on wearing this thing the way I like wearing my shawls. I mean, it's possible, you just kind of have to be a bit mindful, as it were. So yeah, it's gonna keep me nice and toasty. But I like them. But I guess what I like the most about this shawl is that it's very wearable this way. And it literally keeps all my back and shoulders warm. My arm to some extent as well. So it's kind of like a throw in a way. I can just sit like this. I should get a pin on it and just like, yeah, I can definitely see this thing keeping me warm when it's like, I don't know, just a bit nippy, a bit chilly when I'm sitting out and it's getting a bit late. That's kind of the idea behind this in the first place. It's certainly usable for that. So yeah, do you have any complaints? I always have complaints. Well, I wish this thing wouldn't be so firm at the very bottom of a shawl where you need a bit of stretch. That is a bit of a gripe I have, but well. No, I think I'm happy with this. No complaints. Definitely a nice bit of design. Wish the edge wouldn't have been so firm, because you can see kind of gathers a bit. It doesn't get to flare as much as maybe the pie construction would want it to. And I try wearing it again. See, no, it still does that. It's so annoying. I am generally happy with it. So I think that is it for now. Shall we hold up all my finished objects? Yay! Finished all this. Feels very good. Still have like 13 ongoing whips and a couple of UFOs, so I shouldn't really boast too much, but it's nice to have a couple of things cleared off the needles at least. I do want to say though, I was a bit stubborn when knitting that shawl, because up until the very end I was working on a 60 centimeter cable needle, so adding the needles to this, it was 60 centimeters. That's a bit short, so I had a lot of stitches on this little thing. You can imagine, right? So when I was sitting on the bus, on the way to the bus that would take me to Oxford, this thing broke. So literally, I don't know if I could do it, yeah, this just fell off, joint on one side, cable on the other, lots of loose stitches. Sitting on a fairly crowded bus in the middle of London, you can imagine. I managed to save it, and turns out I had brought a longer cable in my notions bag, because I am apparently always prepared. So I managed to save it, and I managed to finish it while being in Oxford. But as I was sitting there, the bus had actually stopped right where Loop is. So I thought, maybe I should just get off here and go to Loop and buy a needle. I managed to resist, and I got to Oxford in time, so that's good. I need to throw this thing away. I just thought I'd show you. I have had this problem happen with KnitPro before, but I don't think it's a fair criticism on theirs, because it's usually the case when I have too many stitches going at the same time. The last time this happened to me was when I was making the Nuvem shawl by Martina Bem. I don't know if you've seen the Nuvem shawl, but it has a lot of stitches. There really isn't a cable long enough to make that shawl, so you have to join lots of interchangeable cables usually. That happened when I was sitting on the tube on the way from Heathrow back to my flat in London. That wasn't great. So I have also had this problem happen on fixed non-interchangeable needles by KnitPro, and that I think is a bigger problem, because I have two 2.5 needles of theirs, and the first one this happened to, I got it replaced, because KnitPro will replace anything that breaks of theirs. They're great that way. So I can probably have this replaced just by contacting them. But then I had it replaced, and it's happened again. And it happened quite recently when I know I've been more careful with that needle. So with their thinner fixed needles, this seems to be a bigger problem, whereas when it happens to the interchangeable cables, I've only had it happen when I have been reckless. So I thought I'd share that. So because my whips this week are mostly FOs, there's very little progress on the actual whips I'm going to show you. Like the squirrel cardigan. Squirrel cardigan. It doesn't look that different from last time really. It looks like a bit of a hat or a skirt or something. But yeah, I literally just made it up to a different pattern section now. What is a bit annoying is that they never actually told me when I was getting to the armhole, so if I decided myself that maybe I wanted to knit back and forth or add some more steek stitches, I didn't know where to do that. So yeah, I don't know now. I know I'm gonna have to cut through somewhere here, and that requires a sewing machine actually, because the floats here are just kind of free floating. I haven't actually knitted them in anywhere because I don't know where the cutting will go. But what I think I'll do is maybe just hand sew these back into the fabric, and then I think I'll be fine without using the sewing machine. Then I can still steek without any securing for the armholes. As for the body, I don't need to do anything, I can just cut. That's good. I'm using a bunch of lamb's wool for this, pretty much. So there's some Shetland in the squirrels, but it's quite soft. So I suspect that's lamb's wool as well. Yeah, for more info on this, I think you just want to check out last episode, because I haven't done enough progress on this project to talk about at length in this episode. So, and it lives in my little paper chase bag that is supposed to be for toothbrushes and hairbrushes and all that kind of stuff, but nah. I have another project that I have cast on this week. I only did one cast on, which I am very proud of, because I can't really help myself. But as some of you will know, I did a giveaway last week that I have found a winner for and announced it and all that. I actually had 2 winners, and that was for the Town Wool Socks, which is a mystery knit along by Anna Friberg of the Honesty podcast and, you know, pattern production as she does. And I couldn't help myself, I had to knit them as well. So that's the kind of moods of colour sock thing that's going on. I don't know if I want to call it, I guess it's a sock club. Like, you have to buy each pattern individually, but you can subscribe to the yarn, but that is all sold out, so I'm just kind of mentioning that's the background of it. So it's going to be a series of 3 mystery sock patterns, one by Anna Friberg, one by Wenche Roald, and one by Pia Kammerborn. And so I have decided to knit Anna socks, at least. I'm probably going to do all 3. It might help me with a box of socks knit along, because so far I got like, what, 3 pairs, 4 pairs? And that's not good if you're going to do 12, and we're already on month 8. So this is the yarn I've chosen. I posted about this on Instagram, and these are yarns from the UK, London, actually just up in Walthamstow, so it's also in East London, and Norway. Also my hometown, so it's really cool. It's very, like, both of them are very local to me, because it's like someone who is from my hometown, and this is someone who's from East London. So this is Travel Knitter, that is Larissa from Travel Knitter, who is a local dyer to me and has amazing colour sense, and she does those amazing vibrant colours of just like primary colours, and they're so good. And I love seeing her yarn every time I go to a yarn show, or Wild and Woolly, for instance. And it's also lovely seeing her, of course, when I go there. And so of course I chose the most neutral colours that she's got. So I got her Skein London Skies, I think it's called. It's a Blueface Leicester nylon yarn, and so is this. So I really do think these are both the same source. Not sure where they're sourced from, but they both have a meterage of 425 meters, and both are Blueface Leicester nylon blends. So this is from Tante Ull, also known as just Marianne, who is a local dyer to me in Trondheim. So I guess what both of these have in common is that not only have they got amazing colour sense, both of them, both lovely people, local to me, they also cater to all my weird yarn requests or wishes when I'm like, I like that base, but I like that colour, can I? And they're usually very accommodating. So very lovely to be able to kind of marry these 2 skeins together into a pair of socks. You don't really see me get this enthusiastic about hand-dyed yarn usually, so it takes some really special colorways and dyers to get me this. excited, and I think these two work super well together. I'd never thought about it until I actually asked Anna to help me kind of pick the most suitable yarn, because obviously she knows what the pattern is going to look like and I have no idea. But I have knitted Q1 and most of Q2, so if you don't want to see them, then look away now, because I'm going to show you. This is what we got. One seen from the front and one from the back. Not that I planned it. Let's see them all from the front, shall we? So I'm using my KnitPro needle as a holder while I'm knitting with ChiyaHiya, because I have suddenly just converted to ChiyaHiya completely. So this is how, you can see on the toe how the, you know, which skein is coming out there, and trying to be very cryptic for the people not looking. And it looks really, really cool. I like it. I don't usually get this kind of experience with yarn, so it's fun when I decide to do that. And then you can see the main body of the sock, how things are turning out there, and it's very cool. It certainly does remind me of another pattern that we have seen on this podcast, but things are just a lot more here. I'll be very, very cryptic. It's a bit of a challenge. So you can see here on the ChiyaHiya needles, I haven't quite gotten as far as I have with the one on the holding needle. So when I say I'm actually using my KnitPro, this is the KnitPro where the cable just popped out. So you can see here, I can literally pop it out. I can put it back in again, but it pops out, and that's annoying, and it snags. That's not good. Shame on you, KnitPro. Just fix it. Try doing like rotating cables, like HiyaHiya's and Signature and some of ChiyaHiya's, because that solves the whole problem. Because not only is there a problem with the KnitPro needles, there's also a bit of a problem with the ChiyaHiya's, because as some of you'll know, I got the interchangeable set recently, and the needles come loose all the time. They come loose more than any of the other interchangeable sets I have. I secure them all the time with the key, but they come loose. So I can literally just do this, and that's not good. That's a bit disappointing. But I still love them, and I still insist on knitting with them, even if they come loose, even if I can't even be bothered to secure them with the key anymore. I still love knitting with them. So there's that. It's still probably worth getting if you have thought about that. So yeah, one last look at the socks. This is even before blocking it. It looks so good, I think. I love this yarn. I mean, I knit the Mercury socks with the same base, because Countess of Blaze uses the same BFL nylon as well, and I just loved working with it. I think it's the perfect sock yarn that hand dyers use. So yeah, I'm definitely glad to have chosen this particular yarn, and I hope I can keep up with this knit along and have another pair of socks done, because God knows I could use more socks than mittens. Definitely. Like, how many mittens should a person have, really? I mean, how many pairs do I have? I don't know. So that is all for stuff that I have knitted this week. I think it's been a very productive week. Probably at the expense of a couple of other things, but at least I managed to get out of town. So I have been to Oxford because my friend Christy, who has been living in Oxford for the past 4 years, she's a friend of mine from Norway, and she moved to the UK about 2 years after I did. And she's been studying in Oxford, and she's just about to wrap up her master's degree, and so I went up there to help her move. And so just went up there with a suitcase of mine, and she stuffed it with all her things, and then we got back here, and yeah, so I took the opportunity to go to Oxford Yarn Store, because during all these 4 years we actually never been there. Don't ask me why. We just knew about this one other shop that's been shut down, and so I never really thought to check out Oxford Yarn Store. But Oxford Yarn Store is amazing. It is truly, truly great, and has probably the best selection of Isaga yarns in all of the UK, I want to say. I think it can compete with even online shops, to be honest. And they don't have an online shop, but you can see the yarn they have on their website and send them an email with what you want, and you can PayPal them the money and have it shipped to you anyway, so it's pretty good to know. So let's look at what I bought. I know you're thinking, oh Ellie, you shouldn't be buying more yarn, you buy yarn all the time, you don't even have money, what are you doing? Well, I bought needles to do my I-cord for the shawl. And so I did. I didn't quite know which needle size to get, so I got 6mm and 5.5. Turns out I only needed the 5.5, but Anyway, I'll be doing more white cords in the future, so it's always good to have. So that was the DPNs by HiyaHiya. And as for yarn, like I said, they had amazing yarn. It was so great to see all that Issachar yarn, and I wanted all of it, but I couldn't think of anything I would actually make with it, so I left it. The only yarn there that I bought was more Navia Duo. So I got the white ones because I've actually never come across white Navia Duo before, and I have a lot of non-white Navia Duo, and so I thought I should just get white that I can use with it. So that's all good. The orange you might recognize from the pumpkin mittens, because I accidentally made 2 right-hand mittens. So let me show you the mittens again. I made these 2, but they turned out to both be right-hand mittens. And I'm like, I can probably make 1 more mitten. I don't know if I can make 2 though, because there's only so much yarn left. Well, I happen to come across the exact same yarn, so I can now make 2 pairs. It's all good. And that's all the yarn I got in Oxford Yarn Shop. I think I should get some self-restraint points here, to be honest. Thank you. So there will be mittens. And about these mittens, this is my pink hazel bag, by the way. I have test knitted for them. They are being really quick, and there are quite many of them as well, because I had a lot of people volunteering, way more than I actually had than asked to test knit in the end, but I thought, you know, let's maximize here. So I think I have about like 7 or 8 people, which some might think actually it's a good number for test knitters. I feel like it's a bit overkill, but I feel very good about everybody who's doing this for me. Thank you so much. So they're being really quick. Some of them are already finished, and yeah, so the pattern should be out soon. I'm hoping for an early September release. That's when the pumpkin spice season is, so that should be really cool. And I'm also trying to maybe make up some more charts. They won't be test knitted, obviously, because I've not made them yet, but just make some alternative charts for those of you who don't drink pumpkin spice, for instance. Like, I do have 2 charts already. There's one where there's just a little, I'm gonna show you. There's one where you have the little cinnamon swirl and coffee bean, and there's one that says I heart pumpkin spice latte. And there's a cheeky little pumpkin on the gusset. I think I might make some alternative charts where I'm maybe replacing some of the things that indicate what kind of drink this is, and maybe just write tea or something. Or maybe just keep them the way they are. I don't know. If you have any opinions or suggestions there, I am happy to listen. But yeah, quite happy with the design as it is right now, and very happy with my test knitters, and it's just all going really well. So I mean, chances are that in addition to the mitten club that, you know, will have a pattern coming out each month, I will be having these mittens coming out, and the green mitts. So, oh, suddenly I'm being very productive and actually being a proper pattern designer again. It's been a long time coming. So I do actually have more acquisitions. I have not been buying more, but I have been sent a couple of things to review. So I have been asked to review for KnitPro. That's right, KnitPro. The big boys, KnitPro. Now the sad thing is that when I was asked this, was literally like, is there anything of us you want to test knit? And I'm like, is there anything of KnitPro I don't already have that I want? Because I have everything KnitPro that I could possibly want. I got all the blocking things, the blocking mats, the little blocker tins and the individual pins, and I got the Nova needles, I got the short Nova needles, I got the chunky Nova needles, I got their wooden needles, the Dreams ones. I just have a lot of KnitPro, and I got a bunch of cables. So I was like, well, what else is there? But I realized actually I don't have the Zing needles that everybody's been raving about. Now most people have been raving about the DPNs, but I'm not so much a DPN girl, so I was like, interchangeable Zing? Is that something you can do? So they were like, yeah. So, and let's look at this. I'm not going to review this today because I want to actually use this before I talk about it, but I just want to show you this because KnitPro has seriously upped their knitting needle case game. Like, look at that. This is like a proper quality case, and there's a big kind of sturdy flap here for the needles to rest on. It's nothing like the first needle case I got from there, so it's basically had the needles strapped to a cardboard piece. Like, this is something, alright. And it's got a little zipper pouch here with all the cables and cable stoppers, joints to join the cables together, and a key and a bit of an instruction manual. And I have to say, the number of cables you get here is actually pretty good. I think you get 2 really long ones, 2 medium ones, and 1 short. So I want to say the long one's 80 centimeter, medium, short one. So I want to say that's maybe 1 60 centimeter, 2 80 centimeter, and maybe 200 meters. But a bit of a guesswork on my part. But that's what I want to say this is. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to have this and being able to review this. And as you know, I pretty much have like honestly Tourette's or something, so I will be giving my honest opinion. Apparently the zipper is stuck, so that's my first honest opinion. No, it's good. It's stuck. It's not stuck, I mean. So there will be opinions had about these for sure. I don't know how I'm gonna... Like, I don't know what to expect from looking at them. They look great. I like that they're color coded. It makes it a lot less of a mystery. Though I will say I'm pondering the decision of making 4 and 4.5 so similar. Anyway, I'm not colorblind. I think I'll be alright. And they look a bit blunter than my Nova, so they're not quite the same. That's good to see. So we'll be hearing more about these in maybe a couple of weeks' time when I have tried them out on various projects, which probably means I'll be doing more cast-ons. Eeps. And also means I might have to try to restrain myself from using my Chargu interchangeables more. And the other thing that KnitPro so generously sent to me is this thing. Now what is this, I hear you ask? Well, you take this button off and then you open this and you have it this way. Or you can take the button and secure it on the inside so that it stands like this, and hopefully now you can see what this is. It's a magnet board with magnets, so it's basically for you to put the chart of whatever you're knitting here, and you use this kind of as an indicator of where you're at in the chart. It's a little bit bendy, but you can get like a parallel line. I actually had a pattern up here. It's the HiyaHiya Tallulah Mittens that I was hoping to work on this week, but I haven't. The most annoying thing about this set so far is that it only comes with 3 little magnets and 1 big one. And I don't know what the decision behind that is, because I'm pretty sure most pieces of paper have 4 corners. So it makes sense to have 4 of these. But anyway, it works. I have tried it, it works. But I will be reviewing this alongside the needles when I have given both of them a thorough run. Yeah, it comes with a pouch for your other patterns if you only use one at a time, and a little pen. I will say it is a bit heavy though, so maybe not so travel friendly, but it's not that heavy, so you know, why not? So that was all I had for acquisitions. I just want to thank KnitPro and Stephanie, who's been kind of the communicator between the two, so much for sending me these things, and I will be reviewing them when I actually have used them thoroughly, because I want to give good feedback. So yeah, I hope you can forgive me for having a slightly run-down voice today. I've been a very social beast this weekend. And also thank you for being so patient with all the noise we had last week. There was a very noisy episode because my neighbor's dog is just going haywire. It was funny, like every time I received a comment on YouTube that, oh my god, that dog is really loud, the dog was actually barking real life. I mean, she barks every morning and every night and every evening. Like every hour of the night, to be honest. Like, it's a good thing I sleep heavily because, yeah. And there's a helicopter because there's always a lot of air traffic here lately. I don't know what's up with that, but that's London, so you can't really complain. But one thing that is happening lately, which I'm not so sure how to handle, is, I don't know how to best describe it. It's drug dealing, basically. There's a lot of drug dealing happening right at the corner of my house, where I enter my own home, where I literally stop. Even when it's really late, to open my bag, get my keys out, lock myself in, there are people hanging around on the corner there, looking a bit desperate. And you know, there's always been people who are obviously drug addicts hanging around the area. There always been. I never minded. They've always been, you know, seemingly harmless. We can coexist. I'm not judgmental. People, you know, are in a difficult situation, and I don't assume that they are dangerous because of that. That's fine. But now there's like actually active dealing right in front of my door. And like, okay, I don't feel so safe when I come home late at night. But I think about all the kids that live here, you know, the children playing outside, and these drug dealers, they speed. I mean, I'm not trying to like do a pun on speed as the drug, but they literally speed across this little road in front of my house, and they just go shoo across and bang right into the speed bumps. And I've been bothered by this sound for a long time, and I realized now that it's them, and I spoke to my neighbor who confirmed it, and it's like they're all, my flatmate as well, they're like being really like, this is a lot in a very short space of time. This is completely escalated. And when I got here with Christy, my friend who was moving from Oxford with her things, and we were just getting into the flat, she just looked at me like, were they just like obviously dealing right in front of us? They weren't even trying to hide it. And I'm like, yeah. And then we went down to eat, and I came back here when she had gone back to Oxford, and it was the same thing all over again, but different people. It was almost just decided that this is the place to do drug dealing. It's not the place for it. This is a fairly nice area. Like, just go over to the other park over there where nobody can see you. That would be a perfect place to deal drugs, in my opinion. Not that I would know. So yeah, I'm not so sure how to handle this situation, to be honest. I'm gonna call the local council. I'm gonna call the non-emergency police number. I know some other neighbours of mine are doing the same things. I reckon the more we are, the better chance we have of getting these people to at least do their naughty business elsewhere. Because, like I said, there are kids living here. What we only can hope is that, you know, they run into the neighbour's dog and they can just finish off each other. I love dogs, so I don't really mean that, but, you know. So that's a little story from my personal life. That's what I'm kind of having to deal with right now. Just drug dealing. It's like, it's not weed, you know, this is drugs. These people, they don't look, you know, they look like they should have help. Yeah, so it's not me being like funny about people who are drug addicts. I'm totally, you know, sympathetic there. It's the actual illegal business that's going on right where I live. I'm not so keen on. So completely unrelated to knitting, but that's kind of what I do at the end of the episodes. I just haven't done that in a couple of weeks, so welcome to the podcast. This is how I do things. And like most people say at the beginning of their episodes, thank you so much for watching, and I am so happy that so many of you are coming back week after week, and I want to, of course, give you a special welcome if this is your first episode or your second episode, or you are otherwise new to this podcast. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.